Welcome to Goobertown Hobbies. My name is Brent. So, where do we start with this one? This is unbelievable. It boggles the mind. It's ridiculous that this is a real object that's sitting on my desk right now. I love minis and canoes and cats and Vikings. This is beautiful. So yeah, in this video we're painting up a 3D print from Loot Studios. If you like this mini too, you can download the STL files for free from the link below. Now I haven't done any paid sponsorships or ad reads on this YouTube channel, at least not yet. But every once in a while, I find a clever way to collaborate with a company that's good clean fun. Loot Studios wanted to promote a massive set of 3D printed Vikings, and I wanted to be a Viking, so here we go. Loot designs their minis to be printed at either 32mm scale or 75mm scale, and I couldn't resist pushing the boundaries of my printer, so I made one even bigger too. I think this is 120mm scale. I'm still an amateur when it comes to printing. I don't do much fiddling or optimization. This was my first time using this gray myminifactory resin. I used whatever settings were saved in my slicer program, I used the pre-supported files from Loot, and I pressed print. All of the models came out nice. So here's what we've got. A Viking-style canoe loaded up with some crates, some cats, the Goobertown anvil, a bedroll, and me as a Viking. The prow of the boat can be printed as a separate piece, and someday I might be tempted to sculpt an alternate figurehead. Today though, we're gonna use the stock model. There's also a base that you can print, but I actually really like this without any base at all. I'm gonna do most of the painting by hand, but I did prime them with the airbrush. I really like the color that I chose for the boat. This is a mix of Israeli sand and olive green. Wood can be a lot of different colors, and most of the time it isn't just brown. That being said, I did use a few shades of brown to add variety to the cargo. Then I painted the metal bits on those crates and chests. For the larger print of the boat, I painted some of those decorative carvings. I started by tracing the inlays with blue contrast paint. Then, I painted the raised parts with red. There's a lot of nice texture on the gunnels of this ship, and I think it looks good with some of them as natural wood and some of them picked out in color. The next step is exciting. I made a watery mix of black and brown ink, and I slathered it all over everything. I'm working fast, and I'm being vigilant when it comes to large pools. The one thing I really want to avoid is having a big pool of ink dry into a nasty water stain. Putting inks and washes onto flat surfaces is always a bit risky. I'm being careful, but if we do get some stains, it's not a problem. The boat should have water stains. Salt water does all kinds of things to wooden boats. If anything, my boat is gonna end up looking too clean. Let's get to work on the Brents. I printed 2 big Brents and 2 even bigger Brents. The idea was to paint up 3 as practice, and then to spend a bit more time on the 4th model to make something extra special. We're gonna do colorful armor, so I made 1 in turquoise, 1 in red, and 2 in green. The green is olive green ink over the black base coat, followed by just a squirt of emerald ink. The red is black primer, followed by brown ink, followed by red ink. The turquoise is black primer, followed by some of the new airbrush paints from Army Painter. Okay, the airbrush is all done now. Let's go get these painted. A lot of this is just picking some browns for the paddles, the shirts, the belts, and the pants. The more interesting problem is figuring out how to paint my face. I need to answer some hard questions. How pale am I, and how much red is in that hair? Am I really a ginger? Most of the stuff I paint on this channel is fantasy or sci-fi, and it's often pretty cartoonish. This model is completely silly, but at the same time, wow, the sculptor really did capture my face. This is a great likeness. Loot often have this highly detailed and more realistic aesthetic. The mix of realism with fantasy elements can be pretty awesome. And yeah, this Brent is instantly recognizable. Well done. So the least I can do is try to be honest with the coloration. I've got plenty of reference images. I chose to start with an opaque skin tone over the face and hair. Then I layered on some ochre over the hair. Ochre has better coverage than most yellows, but it's still nice to have an undercoat that's reasonably close. Next up is flesh-toned wash over the face and hair. This is a red-brown wash, and I think it works reasonably well for hair that is allegedly a little bit ginger. These faces are pretty large to trust with wash, but it turned out okay. The wash adds a bit of variation to the skin tone, and I didn't wind up with any terrible splotches. By the time I added teeth and eyes, these were looking pretty good. On the day that I started painting the fourth model, I got something interesting in the mail. Army Painter sent me their skin tones paint set to review. On this big green Brent, I'm not going to use flesh wash. I'm going to paint the flesh tones exactly how I want them and leave nothing to chance. Let's look at some reference images. I've got my favorite image editing software open here, Microsoft PowerPoint. We can use the eyedropper tool to examine the colors in different regions of the face. Some of the color variation is between lit regions and shadowed regions, and some of the variation is rosy cheeks and splotchiness and razor burns and whatever else I've got going on. The most dramatic color transition is actually right there on the cheeks. It looks like the upper cheek is shadowing the lower cheek. The nose is shadowing the center of the upper lip. The lower lip is shadowing the soul patch. My upper forehead is catching a lot of light, and so is the brow ridge. In between the two is a band of midtone. So this Army Painter set has an awesome range of skin tones, and I'm finding some useful colors. I'm excited about this set. For a long time, in our hobby, to paint a white person you started with elf flesh or dwarf flesh, and to paint a black person you started with dirt brown or bestial brown. Not great. This set makes it easier to find useful skin tones, and I like the naming system better. I'm painting a Caucasian today, and I'm going to use Dorado skin for the midtones, Jasper skin for the shadows, and just a bit of opal skin for the highlights. So far, these paints don't seem to have great coverage, but that's actually alright for mimicking skin. Skin is translucent and splotchy. I'm putting on a bunch of thin layers and trying my best to mimic those reference images. The picture of my face tells me where I should put darker, redder flesh, and where I should put lighter flesh. Let's take a moment to look at the eyes. The entire region of the eye socket is shadowed. Part of this is shading from the brow ridge, and part of it is bags under the eyes. Whatever it is, it's good practice to darken the flesh around the eyes. Also, eyes are not round. They're closer to ovals. The iris touches the top and bottom of the oval, with triangles of white on either side. These models are big enough that I made the irises blue and the pupils black. On smaller models, I normally combine the iris and pupil into a single black dot. I did a bit more work to strengthen the shadows and highlights, and I'm pretty happy with the face. This is great practice. I fine-tuned the hair with a bit of light brown wash, and then I added in some bands of highlights. Painting my own face is silly and fun. Honestly though, I think the best feature of this mini is the armor. It's splint mail or scale mail or something like that. Whatever it is, it's awesome. The detail on this armor is deep and crisp. I brushed colored ink deep into the armor for a few of these Brents. I made the green greener and the blue bluer. I have the feeling that with this armor texture, a colored wash over a bright metallic could look incredible. I'll have to try that someday. I bet the armor would pick up a dry brush really nicely too. I decided to carefully pick out the little rings holding the scales together. I absolutely love the contrast that this adds, and it looks good with either steel or dark gold. Alright, this video is about to get more ridiculous. Here is a tutorial on how to paint my cats. If you want to follow along at home, just pause the video here while you download and print models of my cats. Alright, let's go. I primed him with this grayish tan Israeli sand color. Gordon is an orange tabby with some handsome patches of white. I used a bone color for the white patches on his chest, his chin, and his little feet. I used orangey scrofulous brown for the orange bits. Once that was dry, I painted on lines of flesh wash to make subtle stripes in the orange regions. Snuffles is a Torby. I used various brown and black washes to add overlapping stripes and splotches all over. Snuffles has beautiful green eyes, and Gordon's eyes are golden. I also did a quick paint job on the anvil and the bedroll. It's time to put everything together. Now for the 75mm scale boat, I have the option of a blue Brent or a green Brent. The bigger boat is crewed by a green Brent. For the big red Brent, I added some milliput under his butt so that he can be a standalone piece without a base or a boat. The official name for this model is Brent, Magnus of Goobertown. This Viking set is extra fun for me because a lot of my family was originally from Sweden. I've got a bit of Viking blood in me somewhere. Magnus is a strong Viking name, and it's a name that runs in my family. I have trouble pronouncing some Swedish names, like Emil, but Magnus is great. For real, this whole model is wonderful. It's got my goofy face, my goofy cats, and even the anvil from the Goobertown logo. And it's all in a canoe, and it all looks great. The design of the boat is so fun, and that armor is amazing. I've published a few canoe videos on the Goobertown Hobbies channel. My canoe videos normally don't get too many views, but maybe this one will break the curse. Tell your friends about this video. Maybe subscribe and watch a few other canoe videos. And if you have a 3D printer, or you might maybe get one someday, definitely go download this free STL file and check out the rest of the Vikings from Loot Studios. Magnus of Goobertown is part of the Sea Tribe, and the Sea Tribe is just one of the tribes in the Journey to Valhalla megaset. Luke from Geek Gaming Scenics just uploaded a video featuring the Ice Tribe, and it's glorious. Look at that ship, and look at that ice. I'm looking forward to printing and painting some more Vikings. Well, that's all I've got for today. Thanks to Loot for this amazing collaboration, and thank you all so much for watching.